Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Cody Geiler. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Very good. I love the shirt, man.
Yeah, this was an impulse buy. I just got it today.
Oh, just today? You got it today?
Yeah, literally today.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Went by, did some shopping, saw Boba Fett staring at me, and just said, you know what? I'm going to grab this.
Nice.
I need my collection.
Yes. I've got so many Star Wars shirts, and I was actually the other day kind of going through them and separating them because I'm like, I need all these shirts because I want to change what I wear on the show, even though I always end up wearing this shirt a lot. But I'm like, I need to recycle some of these because I haven't worn some of these in a while. So you might be seeing some different shirts, even though they're older shirts, but they're different shirts that I've got. But God, I got so many freaking Star Wars shirts. It's
you have I've got my whole Star Wars sort of pile.
Yes,
group them all together.
Yes, my bottom drawer of my dresser is all Star Wars shirts, and then the one above it is there's some Disney shirts, and then our Wrigley shirts, and maybe some UK shirts in there. So, nice. But yeah, it's a whole drawer full of Star Wars shirts. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We are Inside the Force. We're going to dive into several news stories in this past week, as well as some episodes of The Bad Batch. And then interesting topic we're going to get into for this episode, which we'll get into later. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's got something to do with a little green friend of ours. Yeah,
the one over here. If you're listening, I'm pointing to my little, green friend.
Green friend.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. First up, let's talk about The Bad Batch a little bit. Now, last we talked, Cody, which was last week, we did kind of a summary of the season, really, because we had not been on for a few weeks, and we wanted to kind of talk about where we were with the series, where we think it was going. Episode 12 dropped last week, so let's talk about that, which was the Rescue on Ryloth, which was kind of a second of the two-part series, two-part storyline centered around Hera Syndulla and her parents and the Bad Batch on Ryloth. So let's talk about that. Episode 12, Rescue on Ryloth. When we start this episode, Cham and Eleni Syndulla, Hera's parents, have been captured by Admiral Rampart, and Crosshair is there. And this was an interesting episode because you've got Captain Hauser, who's been the clone trooper that's been assigned to the Syndullas in the liberation of Ryloth from the Separatists. Now he's working for the Empire, and you get the first real look at a clone trooper that's actually making a conscious decision. Because I'll get back to that, because I think there's a big question out there floating around of how much these inhibitor chips really affect the consciousness of a clone, whether or not these guys can make decisions or not. So we'll get into that later, a little bit later. But overall, Cody, what was your thoughts on this episode as it wrapped up this two-part storyline?
Yeah, overall, I like the two-part sort of method. I feel like back to Clone Wars era, they had a lot of 3-episode arcs, which really felt like, stories were able to grow and build, and you got to know certain groups of characters. Obviously we know Hera, we knew Cham from, Clone Wars and Hera from Rebels and stuff. So I thought it was cool to be able to see more of that, some of Hera's beginnings. It's interesting because Hera's obviously dropped her accent. We didn't talk a lot about that on the previous one. I knew that, they had accents for, I think if we got obviously Cham, but his wife in any Clone Wars, I don't know if they had
her first appearance.
Okay. Yeah. So she's obviously got a really, really strong accent. But that was one thing that kind of, I think a lot of people probably noticed, and at least I did. I was like, oh wow, she really dropped that accent. And I wonder if it was to, sort of blend in and like hide, or if it was just over time, you kind of lose your accent to your race. But no, I thought it was a good episode. I thought it's cool to be able to see Hera and Omega very close in age, both being able to contribute with the Bad Batch and be part of the team. Obviously now Hunter's trusting Omega, not just leaving her behind. And then Hera, gets to kind of realize some of her flying dreams, which we'll see later. So I thought it was really cool from like a perspective of, a younger person getting to contribute to the group and to the part of the whole. And then, as you mentioned, the Hauser portion of it is probably one of the more interesting for where the series could go and what was happening with his chip or not, or it raises a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Hera thing, obviously as a big fan of Rebels and the Clone Wars, I mean, I'm a real big fan of the animated stuff that Star Wars has done. There's a part of you that's like, this is great because I want to see this character and her origins, right? Is basically what we're getting is her origins. The side note, I think it's either in I couldn't figure this out, but there's either a short story out there or maybe it was Hera and Rebels that told the story. But, there's a story out there that her meeting Chopper and finding Chopper. Chopper was part of a Star Cruiser a starship that fell during the Clone Wars, and Hera was there during the Battle of Ryloth during the Clone Wars. We didn't see this part in the series, but a Republic fighter got shot down, and Hera found Chopper, rebuilt him, and that's when she first met Chopper. So we didn't get that origin, which was interesting because I don't think we've seen it. I think we maybe heard it or there was a story about it. But we get her beginnings here, like you said, the love of piloting, the love of space travel, the mission part of it, the strategy part of things, because obviously they as in the Lothal group really strategize on what they are doing to the Empire, how they're stealing from the Empire and giving it back to the people of Lothal. And you can see how she can quickly move up the ranks, right? She becomes a general pretty quickly in the Alliance. So I love that part of it. I think that's really cool, throwback, nostalgic, take for us fans. I wonder how it resonates though with people that haven't seen Rebels, or you know what I mean? Like, does that character become that appeal? These episodes become that appealing if you don't know what Hera becomes?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think it probably loses, the Star Wars a lot of times tries to draw off of nostalgia, or at least the more modern Star Wars, right? Obviously, in its inception, there was no nostalgia because it was all brand new. But recently, they try to draw off nostalgia, which I think can be useful, especially for fans and people that have grown up with it potentially, or seen all the movies, animated shows, books, comics. If you're diving into all of it, you may have a more richer experience. But if you didn't know Hera, this story is interesting, but we're going to leave Ryloth, assume Bad Batch are kind of jumping around. It's not like Hera's jumping on with the team and going to now be a part of the crew. So it's interesting. I mean, yeah, these sort of like pop in, do a mission, help this little town and pop out. It's kind of the similar type stuff that they did with Mandalorian even. And, they did even back with the Clone Wars, because they would just go to a certain planet, help them with their whatever sort of feud was going on between, separatists and Republic, and they would help solve that issue, whether it was a battle or negotiation. So, I mean, I think it's definitely not as impactful.
Yeah.
Just that character doesn't have the same impact and maybe lost on some people potentially.
Yeah, because I feel like that's really what made Clone Wars, I feel like, so easily to fall into because we got introduced to so many new characters. You know, we met more of the Jedi. We were able to hear the Jedi because a lot of them didn't speak in the movies, right? We just heard from the main ones like Yoda and Mace and Kaidi Mundi. And I mean, I don't even think Plo Koon said anything in the movies. Like, we didn't hear him speak until the Clone Wars. We didn't hear, a lot of those Aya Sakura and, things like that. Seemed like those people, they didn't speak during the movies. So we got to hear their voices in the Clone Wars. And then, of course, like you said, we got introduced to Rex and you heard Cody more. And you got to know all these different clones like Fives and Jesse and Heavy and all these guys. And then, of course, yeah, like you said, we met a lot of these systems that had these different governors and leaders and all this stuff. And so you're seeing that a little bit with the Bad Batch. Obviously, we're continuing right after the Clone Wars. So, bringing someone like Cham Syndulla in, obviously we just saw him in the Clone Wars. So it makes sense that he would come back. The Senator Tao, that's part of Ryloth. He's been in a live action character, and he's been in the Clone Wars. So, that's the thing is like, what I'm getting at is that if you hadn't seen Rebels, Hera is a new character, right? So again, I don't know how interesting to hear from somebody that hadn't seen Rebels on whether or not she was likable from the beginning, right? Because we already know her, so it's like, oh, it's Hera. We know who she is. But if you didn't know who she was, I wonder how that resonates with if that character is someone you like. Wow, I want this girl back. I want to know more about her, because I think because you would know Cham, you haven't met his mom, the mom yet, like you have in this episode. But I don't know. It's interesting to think like that because fans like us that dive into things as it comes out, we don't really have that perspective. You know what I mean? So it's very similar. I feel like like you said, Star Wars has been doing it for a long time. I remember when we're watching episode 1 and 2, and the only familiarity with those movies really was a young Obi-Wan, and like occasionally you get R2 and 3PO, but they weren't the central part of the story like they were in the original trilogy, right? But I remember in episode 3, right, they brought Chewbacca back because there was that nostalgic hook, you want to bring back. So I get what you're saying. I think it's always going to be there, and Filoni, of course, is one that's always going to try to make those connections, as we've said for a long time now. So, but I don't know. It's interesting to think of what that perception is from new fans.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because, like, if you you hadn't seen Rebels yet, and this was your first introduction to Hera, I would think, oh wow, they put a lot of importance on this character. I would think that if I hadn't seen Rebels, I would wonder if Hera is going to come back in later episodes or seasons of the Bad Batch, which is still on the table, honestly. Frankly, her involvement with the Rebel Cell, with Vale, I think that may still be to come, and maybe she will be important because she is, a large part of that early sort of rebel stage,
Very, very, very much so. Because I think, as people have been reacting to this latest episode, it definitely feels like there's going to be a season 2, even though there's not been an official announcement yet. But I definitely anticipate 2 or 3 seasons of this show. So I think we're going to dive into that side of that, like you said. Episode 13 did drop today. I watched it. I don't think you've seen it yet. It's a little. It's being talked about a lot out there about being a filler episode. So, I'm interested. We'll talk next week on that. Your thoughts on that, because I think it definitely does feel like a filler episode. It was decent, but we'll talk more about it next week. But only 3 episodes left now. Next week,
Man.
it's yeah.
That's hard to believe. That's hard to believe with this being the most recent episode, only having 4 left, that they would go that route. I was kind of hoping they'd ramp back. We talked about when we did our breakdown of Bad Batch from, premiere all the way until last week, and, kind of hoping, they hit these climaxes, and then you have Rex's involvement, and then you bring in Cad Bane, and then you have, sometimes an episode where they go off and help some senator that doesn't further the plot, and you're kind of hoping we're on that rising action now into the last 3.
I know. I think this next episode it's called War Mantle, so I think it's going to be more about the Empire side of things. I think they don't have the titles for 15 and 16 yet out there, so I think that's going to be a 2-parter in a sense, ending. So I don't think we're going to get really that Crosshair interaction with our Bad Batch team until those last 2 episodes. So I'm interested next week this War Mantle part. I don't know if I feel like it's more just got to be about the Empire and the whole thing about maybe the Kaminoans and the Empire. They're not really happy with them making the decision that they want to make, do human stormtroopers versus clones. I don't know. That I feel like that's been hinted at throughout this season, but not really followed up on.
Yeah, well, I feel like Hauser's involvement in the previous episode, which I didn't know if you wanted to save to talk about that later, but that's got to be something that leads into hopefully this first season finale. More clones that are either their chips are defective, or they didn't have chips, or they are just able to resist. I mean, there's a lot of questions that begs. I don't know what your take on Hauser and whether or not his chip is working or not working.
Yeah, that's thanks for reminding me, because I did want to bring that up, because I think I'm on the side that thinks now, especially with what happened with Hauser. I think the big lingering question was always, did the chip only? What did the chip actually do to the clones? Did it say all Jedi are evil, hunt the Jedi and kill them? Or did it basically say hunt the Jedi, but also you're now following every order we give you without question? Because I felt like that was the theme a little bit, because you kept hearing Crosshair say good soldiers follow orders, right? And then even Wrecker said that when he was kind of under good soldiers follow orders.
Well, and Wrecker went after the rest of the Bad Batch and Omega, so his chip clearly, in my mind, unless his was just part of this malfunction, it went beyond just the Jedi.
Correct.
And maybe it was, I guess you could explain it to say, like you're saying, the Jedi, Order 66, follow orders and eliminate, like any traitor is now an enemy. That would have to be a part of the directive or the order of the chip. So I feel like Hauser's chip would have had to have been malfunctioning or not there, because him not following their order there, it doesn't relate to the Jedi, it still goes against the Empire's protocol.
Right. So because of what happened to Hauser, though, it's making me think that the chip was simply a short-term function that turned the clones against the Jedi. That's simply all it really meant. Now that the Jedi have pretty much been classified as extinct or destroyed, then it kind of wore off or just turned itself off, and these clones now have a conscience now.
Well, and one other potential is, they always call the shinies, the regular clones, some of the newer recruits. There's a few just sort of generic clones in that scene with Hauser that also choose to, turn away. And are any of them new clones since Order 66?
Right.
Like, I know that there's the whole, Tarkin and the Kaminoans.
Yes.
Are they going to continue using clones or not? But you have to wonder.
Like a newer generation.
There could have been recruits ready to go that had been trained, hadn't been deployed pre-66, and right after 66, now they're out and sending them to these different planets. So are any of the new clones having inhibitor chips? And do they even have Order 66 built in or not? Why would they need it? I don't know.
That's very true. The other theory that's been chopped around with me and Cyber Ren over there on the other podcast I do, Mandalore podcast, is that guys like Hauser, guys like Rex, because they've had these really deep emotional connections with Jedi, that they're with him it's more with the Syndulas with Hauser. Mm-hmm. Because he has these relationships, maybe it doesn't affect him as easily as somebody that doesn't have those relationships. I don't know.
I like that a lot. I mean, it's hard to maybe quantify in a scientific way, but it feels like it gets to the heart of some of like the themes of Star Wars, right? Like you show, even back in the original trilogy, Luke and Vader, right? Love is able to conquer that dark side, light side gap, right? It's able to bridge and bring them together, as father and son and as a family. And, maybe there's a way that they explain it, that these deep relationships that existed before Order 66, there's a way the chip just can't account for. There's some things that are stronger than a chip in your brain, or than the emperor's sort of manipulation. So
I do like that a lot. So I think there's questions there that need to be answered. I think, and I feel like we will get that. I think that's what this brings, this whole Hauser move and these clones getting arrested. I think it brings up those issues that will get addressed as far as what happens to these clones and why they're like that. Because you got to think about, just fast forwarding a little bit, as this connects to Rebels. There's that episode of Rebels, early season 2 of Rebels, where Kanan and Ezra and Ahsoka, on Ahsoka's direction, go and find Captain Rex, right? And he's there with Wolf and Gregor, who have had their chips removed. So we haven't seen that yet. Has Rex done that already? Because it begs the question, is if that hasn't been done yet, why does it need to be done if they have control of it now? Mm-hmm. Right? So why do you even have to take out that chip? So either Rex did it right away, like shortly after him and Ahsoka crash landed, that Star Cruiser at the end of season 7 of Clone Wars. Did he find them and take their chip out right away, or that's again, or why does it matter now if he finds them now? Because I feel like there's a hole right there that has to be figured out with those two guys.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes you wonder, are there going to be a lot more clones that join up with the Bad Batch?
Mm-hmm.
Because,
exactly.
Gregor, Wolf that you mentioned, and then any of these clones with Hauser, we don't know what their fate's going to be.
Or maybe like Crosshair, maybe because the chip is there, the clones can be controlled. They just have to activate something else or put them through that machine, whatever Crosshair is in.
They might do that to Hauser,
yeah. So it's like, that's why they have to take the chips out. So that makes sense to me. So maybe they'll follow up on that, something like that, and explain it that way. But I think there's still a big question out there about the chip. So it'd be good for them to dive in that, which I think they will. I think there's going to be some chip issues with some clones, and I think there's going to be ultimately some answers for that. So, but we'll see. 3 episodes left now that today episode 13 is dropped. Okay, so a couple brief news here till we get in our topic, but real quick, Star Wars, or Disney Parks technically released a new poster this week, a banner and a poster for Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, which is the Disney World hotel connected to Hollywood Studios right there by Galaxy's Edge. So it's the experience. It's not just a resort hotel. It's a Star Wars experience. It's interesting because the poster looks like it's got a couple of, it looks like guests almost. I don't know if they're going to be characters or not, but you have a Twi'lek on there. You have like what looks like an Imperial somewhat, but it's not Imperial. I guess it's a First Order, because it's technically around the First Order time still, because Kylo Ren's on the poster. Then you have a young kid, looks like with a Jedi, young girl that's kind of dressed like Jyn Erso almost. But anyway, got a big droid in the middle there, R2 droid. Chewbacca's on the cover, stuff like that. So it looks like there's a storyline there. Disney's all about storylines. So I don't know what it is, but still don't know full date yet on when this thing opens. I don't know. Initial thoughts on what you saw there, Cody?
I think it's interesting that they I'm glad they go to the links of, having artists work on, either concept art or characters. It reminds me of stuff like High Republic, where, the characters may not be completely set in stone in their design. They can sort of morph and change because they're not on screen elements they're using, but it helps bring to life the experience that you're talking about that you'll get.
Yeah.
I wonder if they are going to be, anytime you go, if there are, I don't know what you would call it, like NPCs, right? Like, you go and I guess you get to become a part of the story and experience, but there's going to be obviously staff and probably visual and audio elements that may, deliver sort of like little blurbs about, where you are in the galaxy and the story. So I think it'll be interesting. It'll almost be like a role-playing type game.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, it'd be crazy to think that these 4 prominent characters on the poster those are actual characters that you could be. Like the Twi'lek would be interesting. Like, would you actually get dolled up like that? Face painted and whatnot. There's a little. It looks like a dining table with a group of people around. Obviously, they're wearing Star Wars attire as well, right? So it does seem like the rumors out there that you actually have a wardrobe when you're at this thing. You're not just wearing like a Boba Fett t-shirt when you're walking around there. So I think it's pretty crazy. I think it's a bold venture, and I'm excited to experience it. I can't wait to see what it's like. It's just going to be interesting. We haven't seen anything about it yet, so we'll just leave it at that. But check that out. New poster is coming 2022. Apparently, still there are. I saw some actually pictures on Twitter somewhere. Some aerial shots. The outside of the hotel does look pretty much completed. So it's almost there. Okay, I'll throw it to you, Cody, on this latest bit of news. A little bit about Obi-Wan and some casting.
So interesting. I guess you can mark this under, if you don't want to know anything about Obi-Wan, the show, potential spoiler, could be rumor, because nothing official has been said. But as we remember back to Mandalorian Season 2, a lot of casting got out there and ended up being true and was just never confirmed by Lucasfilm. So sometimes these casting things get out and Lucasfilm doesn't probably want to report on it. But the website Cinelinx, to credit them, reporting that they've casted a young Leia for the Obi-Wan series. Her name is Vivian Lyra Blair, which some people may know from the Netflix show Bird Box. So very interesting. You know, we've thought and wondered, will young Leia be in it?
Yeah.
I can't remember how long ago we talked about it, but I know we talked about ideas of what would get Obi-Wan off Tatooine. And I know at some point we bounced around the idea of like, if he's there protecting Luke, the only other thing that could take him away would be Leia, right?
Yep.
He even though he's specifically on Tatooine to protect and potentially train Luke, you know, he still has that loyalty to Leia and to Anakin and Padme's children. So I think it's super interesting. If the casting report is true, I think it is, to me, it seems obvious. It's what gets Obi-Wan off Tatooine, and we're definitely going to be leaving Tatooine. The site continues to go on to report that actor Sung Kang, some people know from Fast and Furious, who played Han, not Solo, but his character's name was Han. A little Star Wars connection.
Interesting, yeah.
He is reportedly going to be playing an Inquisitor, and actually the fifth brother from Star Wars Rebels. And he will be an Inquisitor that's tasked with hunting down Obi-Wan. So the idea of Inquisitors being involved in Obi-Wan has kind of been rumored, depending on, you know, what you sort of read into. So another super interesting casting report. Sung Kang has actually already been confirmed in the cast. We just haven't been told who he's playing.
That's right.
So it's very interesting that some of these things are starting to potentially line up.
So fifth brother, that is interesting because we have seen fifth brother. He has shown up in Rebels, and if no one remembers him, he showed up with, I think it was seventh sister, who was voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and they were, you know, obviously tasked with tracking down those rebels, and they all fought Ahsoka, Ezra, Kanan, and even Maul on, I think it was what was Malachor? Malachor? Is that what, I think that was the planet Malachor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Malachor.
So we've seen him. I mean, and he's got. I mean, we've seen his face, and he's an alien. I was looking him up. Can't remember what type of.
It's almost like a grayish green color.
Yes.
I feel like. Yeah.
Doesn't mention species. Just calls him a gray-skinned humanoid. But yeah, so yeah, he's gonna have to do some makeup if that's who he's playing. But he does kind of look, you know, it's safe to me to say because I'm Asian. He kind of looks Asian, you know. The fifth brother does look Asian, so, but he does look bulkier. I don't remember Han from Fast and Furious being all that bulky.
Yeah, definitely not as much as the animated version of Fifth Brother. I mean, I know there's some liberties with animation because, you know, one thing that I've seen a lot of people post about when people get a little up in arms in like when Ahsoka was in live action and her head tails were shorter.
Yes.
They famously put out the Dooku Clone Wars face and how his head is just stretched to an abnormal, crazy proportions. True. And his like jaw and beard line are just massive. And, you know, in real life, he's not actually like that. So I guess there's always some liberties. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, I think we talked briefly before recording that, you know, they had an actor, and I don't actually have his name up here, but a voice actor that did the fifth brother, you know, and a lot of times they try to pull from the same voice actor and use them in live action. And here they're, I guess, recasting, you could call it.
Yeah. So Leia, you know, the information that we've been getting from Lucasfilm right now is that Obi-Wan takes place 10 years after Episode 3. So Leia is 10 years old at this point. Makes sense that, you know, there could be, you know, I don't know, it could be some kind of issue with her, whether it's related to her being discovered as a Skywalker. I don't think that it would go there, because I feel like she's pretty well hidden. unlike Luke, she doesn't have the name Skywalker, which is pretty obvious. She is an Organa right now. There's a book by Claudia Gray called Leia, Princess of Alderaan, right? And she's 16 in that book. So, and at 16, she's very well involved in the galactic dealings, the politics and everything, and what her father's doing and whatnot. So, that's only about 6 years from this point. What I'm getting at is that don't be surprised that she may be already, as a 10-year-old, following her father and getting involved a little bit in what's happening behind the scenes on things. Does she know? I don't think she. This potentially a spoiler. I don't want to spoil it, but if I remember from the book, in that book is when she realizes that Bail is helping a rebellion. I don't think she knows up until that point, if they follow the canon of the book, right? Because that's always in question too, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think there's something with Leia with this casting. I think there has to be something with Leia that brings Obi-Wan off planet. And it could be just simply Leia's in trouble by something else, and by him coming off planet and doing something, it could trigger. Maybe he just ignites his lightsaber, and that gets its way back to the Empire, and they're like, okay, we'll send Fifth Brother out there to figure out where this guy is, and they don't necessarily know it's Obi-Wan, but maybe somehow Vader finds out. That's a big question still, is does Vader actually find? I mean, he does if they're going to fight, which makes you think that he's going to think that he kills him finally, or does he actually know that he's still alive all the way up until episode 4?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I definitely feel like, I definitely feel like Vader will come in after the Inquisitors, like you said, and probably not realize it's Obi-Wan until he's, I guess, within proximity to like feel him in the Force. Like, there's probably got to be a moment before they meet where, because they just seem to be able to like sense each other's presence.
Yeah.
Because of their strong connection. I feel like with the dialogue in episode 4, the only thing is Vader still talks about Obi-Wan being the master and him being the learner. So I feel like there's almost a bit of that you could maybe describe that Obi-Wan would win the fight again.
Yes. I agree with you.
Anakin was still the learner, meaning he hadn't bested Obi-Wan. And when we see him in episode 4, Vader saying, basically in a very crude paraphrase, like, I'm now stronger than you. I feel like that's like his sort of presence. But
I'm with you. I feel like this battle, the more and more I think about it, I feel like this battle is going to be like a draw almost. There's going to be just this long lightsaber battle, but then kind of like the first battle between Qui-Gon and Maul. Qui-Gon just jumps on a ship and flies away. It's like Obi-Wan, they're fighting, then Obi-Wan like jumps off and jumps on a ship and flies away, and so Vader knows he's out there. But does he think in the next 9 years that he may, just wither away and die? Because you remember, Tarkin's like, surely he's dead by now. So if you think about that line by Tarkin, surely he must be dead by now. Meaning that, okay, he didn't die. He knows he didn't die in the Purge. From Order 66, that he knows he survived. But surely he's dead by now. Like, there's no way he survived out there this long on his own, right? But Vader's like, never underestimate the Force, right? So, so it kind of makes you think. It's crazy to think that back in '77 that this dialogue would be that relevant. But it makes you think that dialogue now means that could mean that they know Obi-Wan's alive. Vader knows that Obi-Wan's alive, but he just hasn't seen him in a while, and doesn't expect him to be, isn't surprised that he's around now still after all these years. So I guess another question that'll come after this series is there a possibility that they could have another encounter possibly before episode 4, but probably not. Who knows? I don't know.
I didn't even think they would have this encounter.
Exactly.
Now we're like dissecting the dialogue to say, well, I guess they never said that it didn't. So, never say never.
Never say never. So
the other thing I think that I was going to ask you about that's kind of interests me by this casting thing is, Anakin never knew that Padme had twins, right?
Well, he never knew she had kids at all.
I guess he never knew that, that the kids survived. So he didn't know that. So is there a world where Leia, more specifically than Luke, because you assume that Luke's just sitting on Tatooine, Leia has a run-in, young, 10-year-old Leia has a near run-in with Vader, or Obi-Wan is there to stop it. You mentioned the fight with Qui-Gon and Maul, and I think about, the moment when Anakin's kind of running and ducking and sort of jumps on the ship.
Oh, I see.
It's such a quick blur that, he wouldn't sense her, and she probably would just be scared and wouldn't think a lot about it, even at an older age. And there's no, I don't think there's any interaction between her and Vader that rules out that, she could have witnessed him, chasing down somebody, I don't know if it could have been Bale or whoever, but Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I totally think that that's possible, because here's the thing too to think about is that, Vader, you in some of the stories in there, in books and comics, and just Lucasfilm talking about it, the galaxy is so, we only know a small portion of these characters in the galaxy, right? The galaxy is massive, thousands and thousands of systems, billions and billions of people, right? So we only know these certain amount of people. So a lot of citizens out there, they've never seen Darth Vader. They all they hear is stories, right? And it's like he's almost like a myth. At some point, you even in one of the books written by Alexander Freed called Battlefront: The Twilight Company, which follows these group of soldiers throughout the original trilogy. There's one part in that book which is really good where they're at Echo Base when Echo Base is getting attacked during Empire Strikes Back, and these soldiers are witnessing Vader for the first time, and they just are like, what the heck is this guy doing? He's stopping bullets with his hand. He's got this laser sword and he's just chopping through people. They're like, who is this guy? So like no one's seen Vader, right? So that's interesting that you bring that up, because if Leia witnesses a Vader, and because you think, we again going to episode 4, we're dissecting this. When she sees Vader, she knows who he is, right? She says, "Darth Vader, only you could be so bold." Like she's not terrified by him.
That's true.
She's seen Vader before. She knows who Vader is. This could be that explanation, which I think is really cool.
Well, all this dialogue now seems so important. And, I'm trying to recall what's been in books about, when Tarkin is there, Leia mentions, I smelled your foul stench, right? She's had run-in with Tarkin before.
That's right.
So, taking this all a step further, is there a world? I don't know that Tarkin has ever been rumored to be in it. They can obviously do it. They've proved it with Rogue One. Is Leia captured by the Empire?
Yeah.
And is that the thing that kicks off Obi-Wan having to come out of hiding?
Yes.
And that's how he gets, so close with the Inquisitors and Imperial forces noticing him, and Vader noticing him.
Yeah. Well, it might not be Leia. It might be Bale, but Leia just happens to be there. Right? like Bail, it could be a thing where there's a rebel cell that they found, and because you got to remember, if canon holds true, the Alliance, the rebellion necessarily isn't organized until Rebels. So we're still talking 6, 7, 8 years from now. So right now, there's just all these pockets of rebel cells out there kind of working independently. Some of them may be working together, but there's no true rebellion right now, like a big rebellion. So it could be that Bail is funding or helping a cell, or maybe he's with a cell and a big bunch of people get caught and they're interrogating or in the middle of trying to figure out who is and so maybe Obi-Wan has come in and saved them, and Leia is there, and Tarkin could be there at that point. That's a very good point about her witnessing that, because she knows who he is as well. So I love that. I think that's a hell of a series right there. That is perfect. Because you don't want to see, I don't want to see anything technically happening on Tatooine, because he's got to be hiding there, right? So
yeah, we kept thinking about young Luke, I think, early on, because maybe his
isn't there a rumor that he's got casted as well? Yeah,
I think there are rumors of that, and maybe not a specific actor, which he very well may be in it. And it makes more sense now that maybe that just kind of sets up where Obi-Wan is, what he's been doing. Uncle Owen slams a door in his face, yeah. And then he gets contacted by somebody.
Mothma or somebody, yeah.
Mothma, Bail, somebody on Alderaan potentially, or Leia. I don't know.
Because you remember,
Leia's asking him to help Bail. Who knows?
Because you remember in Rogue One, Mothma knows about Obi-Wan. So
yeah, your Jedi friend.
Exactly. So
he knows just the person because Leia and Obi-Wan have met before.
That's true. I'm telling you, we're writing the movie, we're writing the series right now. So it's all there. It's all there's. I mean, what we've just said basically makes a connection with the movies, right? And we're almost it's almost like taking the dialogue from Rogue One and from Episode 4 and then creating what those people are referencing, or what that dialogue is talking about, which is crazy because that was 40 years ago.
Oh yeah. It's crazy to dissect it all, and if it does come to fruition, that would be awesome. And this is a thing that I hadn't thought a lot about before. I mean, we kind of, I think, threw it around a while ago, what would Leia's involvement be? But I think it's kind of brilliant if they are going in this direction, which I hope they are now. Because, being on Tatooine the whole time would be boring. And Leia, of either of the Skywalkers, Leia is the one that's bound to get into trouble, right?
Yeah, totally.
I think if they can, I don't know a lot about this young actress, but if they have her as sort of like a troublemaker from the beginning, I think it's perfect because it sets her up for who she's going to be. When we see Carrie Fisher as her. So.
And I hope that it's more than just a brief shot of her. I would like to have her part of whatever story is in this, because there is a chance that it could just be a Bail's work. Bail's maybe in it more, and there's just a shot of her coming in the office, and hey, it's little Leia, and then she gets away. I wouldn't like that. I want, if it's Leia, let's get a like we did with Hera and Bad Batch. Let's get some hints of who she is, who she's becoming, and see her part of the story. I think that would be killer. So Obi-Wan is, hasn't shot yet. I don't believe they're still casting. So they haven't shot yet. The rumors are they're not shooting until later this year.
I thought they were shooting, because didn't we see a photo of Ewan?
Yeah, you're right. They are shooting.
Part of his costume, but he had like a robe to hide it all.
You're right. They are shooting. So interesting. So maybe this casting it could have been kept under wraps and just leaked or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this casting could have happened months ago. Who knows?
That's right.
I don't think there's anything specific here about timing. And back to the like Mandalorian season 2 stuff. I think when the Hollywood Reporter got news of all the casting, Mandalorian season 2 had wrapped at that point. So that's when the Ahsoka rumors started popping up. People were wondering, well, have they already filmed it? All those kind of questions. But
Okay, cool. So that was a great discussion. I like that. More to come from that as we obviously get some more information from Obi-Wan and some trailers and posters hopefully soon. One last bit of news before we get into our topic, just real quick. San Diego Comic-Con, the at-home version is actually happening right now. There's some virtual panels out there. I haven't actually dived too deep into what's happening out there, but there was a High Republic panel that happened today. It kind of showed off what was coming in Wave 3, which is starting in January 2022. So you can go on StarWars.com and read about that. Just a couple of things highlighted. Another book coming from Claudia Gray. Another book, there's a book coming from Claudia Gray called The Fallen Star. You've got another comic series coming from Charles Soule called Eye of the Storm. You got Daniel Jose Older doing another book, Midnight Horizon. And then Justina Ireland is doing Mission to Disaster. So definitely the same 5. Cavan Scott, who just came out with Rising Storm, I'm sure is going to be involved more. So obviously these 5 authors are the ones that are spearheading all of this High Republic content. So new stories coming January 2022. And we are actually going to be diving into some of these stories here on Beyond the Saga here shortly. The comics and the Marvel comics and the books a little bit as Hannah and I get caught up on some of this stuff. So look for that coming soon. You into any of this stuff yet, High Republic, Cody?
I have started more so on the first wave, but have not finished. I do the audiobooks as well.
Same here.
I think you do. Yep. So I kind of started Light of the Jedi. Actually also started Into the Dark, I believe. Yeah, Into the Dark. I like that one a lot. Light of the Jedi, I probably hit the halfway point a while back and need to finish.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm halfway through it right now too. Into the Dark, I haven't started yet, and I've been reading the comic series, the Marvel series, as that's been coming out. That's been pretty good. Okay, let's get into our main topic here and talk a little bit about this. Also, something that popped up, I think it was today, was a couple posters from The Mandalorian. One particularly showed a young Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, standing next to your green friend behind you there, Grogu. Yeah. And what looks to be a little bit of a training session of Grogu building his lightsaber. Luke's got a crystal that he's hovering. Now, it's been out there that this is an official poster. I think it's officially licensed poster. I don't think it's an official poster sanctioned by Lucasfilm necessarily. But it is a poster that's out there and floating around. Everybody's talking about it. So, I guess, Cody, I just wanted to kind of spitball a little bit about, for one, thoughts on seeing the poster, but then also let's dive into a little bit about what could a Grogu Luke Skywalker series look like? Like, what would we be getting out of that series? So I'll let you take the first stab at what you thought about the poster.
It's a cool poster. Yeah, really a lot of questions about, where specifically it's being used. All I've seen from just sort of like digging and looking up that it says it's officially licensed. Looks like it was in a series of stuff that's come out around the time for Comic-Con. There's another poster in the same sort of batch of things that were created. It's a Mandalorian. It's got Din with the Darksaber holding Grogu, and then you've got this one of Luke, young Luke, with Grogu. They're building a lightsaber. He's got the crystal, that yellow crystal. It's very specific. So it just all seems very specific, right? It's not like it's, hey, here's a fan poster that some, cool artist created, because there's a ton of those awesome ones of Grogu with lightsabers and, things that we've seen. But yeah, if this is officially licensed, I feel like this would be very strange for them to have this come out if it's going to be something they dive into, because you got to imagine they showed Luke in Mando season 2. We're not done with Grogu. I can pretty much confidently say that. Anybody that's worried, I think Lucasfilm likes to make money, and as well. They're pretty good at it, in fact. So I think that Grogu is a huge moneymaker for them. So I think it's either only a matter of time before he comes back into The Mandalorian, whether that's season 3 or not, I don't know. Or, as you alluded to, are we going to now get another spin-off show in the vein of this Mandoverse, that is Luke starting to train or starting to figure out what it's going to be like to start a new Jedi Academy, which I would be down for.
So that's the first question, is realistically, like, really think about this. Is there a story there? Is there a story in a series, even if it's a limited series? Like, is there a story with Luke and Grogu? And what initially could that story be? Because I think just the struggles of training is not a story.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with you.
I think there has to be something else there. Because I would actually rather see, just thinking about it, I would almost rather see a Luke training a young Ben. Like, I feel like that is more of a story, because we know that Ben has dark side struggles, right? So that would be interesting to me to see, uncle training nephew. But this is a little different, because obviously we didn't even know about Grogu until The Mandalorian came out. But we're in that time frame where it's 5 years after, 5 or 6 years after Return of the Jedi, and Leia has decided to walk away already and put her saber away and go raise Ben. Ben's only about 5 now, and what we've known from the books and whatnot is that he doesn't actually start training new students until roughly 5 years later, to when Ben's about 10. So at this point in time, Luke is only has Grogu that we know of. And I don't know, it's like, what do you do after he leaves? So here I'll put you on the spot, Cody. Okay. I'm Lucasfilm.
Lay it on me.
I hire you as the series showrunner for Luke and Grogu. Okay, Cody, I'm tasking you with, at the end of season 2, when he walks down the hallway and you see him enter that elevator and the elevator closes, what's the next scene? Where do we go from there?
Well, I'll give you a funny answer and then a real answer. My first question is, does he have a car seat in that X-Wing in the back seat? Because I don't know how he's fitting him in there. But no, so for real, we probably don't see him.
He probably just sits in his lap.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we'd all want to pay to see. That'd be super cute.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think you're right. There's got to be conflict. Every story's got to have conflict. All these stories that they're telling have conflict. What we just talked about with Obi-Wan, with Leia's involvement. Look back at Mando season 1, even in Mando season 2. If I were going to do it, I feel like you said, it wouldn't just be, hey, we're going to train. Grogu's going to have this Rocky montage and become the coolest Jedi ever. I think, honestly, where they're heading, I would repurpose the Thrawn trilogy, and I would bring Luke into this fold that they're building with Ahsoka, Mando, maybe potentially Boba Fett. I don't know where they're going with that, but I would put a lot more into this than things like the Ranger show, which looks like it's potentially shelved and not happening. And it's hard to say, because as I'm talking about it, I would almost rather see them pop up and come into other shows. Luke coming in at the end being the hero that he was really interesting. And I think it is going to be really challenging, to sustain a show with that deep fake technology or de-aging, however they potentially maybe show us in the behind the scenes. So I don't know. As I'm talking about it, I'm wondering how less and less likely, that is actually going to be, that they would do an entire series with a de-aged Mark Hamill and a puppet, because you have no real people in those shots. But if I were to do it, I would give Luke and Grogu a lot of the similar sort of, I would adapt parts of the Thrawn trilogy and build that with what they're going to potentially do with Ahsoka and Mando finding Thrawn and Ezra.
Yeah, I love that. And honestly, you kind of changed my mind a little bit, because my initial thought was I obviously they can come up with something. They can come up with some kind of conflict, like you said. There could be some situation that draws attention from the Empire, or not the Empire. I guess the former Empire. That's the thing too. Is at this point in time, the New Republic is around, so he should be protected. Technically, Jedi should be protected at this point, but we've never seen him establish anything yet. So who knows what he's thinking right now, as far as the Jedi returned, but he hasn't fully started the academy yet. Is there a place, that's a whole nother tangent. Is why doesn't he go to Leia or the Republic and say, I want to open the temple back up that's on Coruscant? Maybe something happened to it. We don't know, I guess, necessarily. The temple is still there at the end of Return of the Jedi. We can still see it in the background, but why can't he go back there? Apparently, I think the Emperor made his throne room in the Jedi temple. So it's why wouldn't he want to go back and reestablish that? Or unless he's, again, thinking I want to redo the whole thing, a whole new Jedi Order. It's not like the old order. It's completely new, but he unfortunately doesn't really get that chance. So maybe he, so what made you change my mind was that at first I was I don't know if there's a story there. I don't think we should go down that road. No matter how much I love these characters or want to see that. But you interesting bringing in that Thrawn trilogy is very interesting. Now, because of that, I thought of another character. I think that this is actually a good chance to actually possibly bring in a Mara Jade. Because Mara Jade started out as an agent of the Empire, right? As an assassin. So maybe she's maybe like a mercenary type person, and she's hired to go after Grogu now that Grogu's on, with Luke, and there's some potential conflict there. And then maybe there's that story of them. I don't think they're going to go down the road of them falling in love and getting married and whatnot, but you could do something like that, which would be interesting. So
I like the Mara Jade angle, and I really do like. There's still something with what they were going to do with Grogu. They meaning Empire, Moff Gideon. You have to think somebody else aside from the client gave Moff Gideon his directive.
Yeah.
So that is a type of threat that could be a little larger than Gideon and the Imperial Remnant, could be larger than what Mando had to go up against in just a single Star Destroyer. Whoever's pulling those strings, could there be somebody else more senior than Gideon or more in the know about Palpatine's, I guess, whatever his plan to the cloning process. I think there's definitely what they were going to do with Grogu's essence is interesting, and then makes me think about all types of questions of the Luke hand, thing that they introduced in a comic, and there's the idea of it's legends, but the Jedi clone that is introduced, and I'm blanking on the name, but you could have
Jedi clone from
gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts that I can't think of it right now, but you could have a cloned Jedi who is part of what they started to try to figure out, how could you clone how can you clone a Force sensitive, and it could be fully under control of the Empire, or it could be Mara Jade that's sent to go after Grogu. So I don't know, that becomes obviously a little bit more science fiction-y, which is kind of more in line with what some of the 90s Legends material was like, but that could give us a threat that somebody even like Luke and now Grogu could have to go up against. And especially, I don't know if it's too easy to continue the somebody is after Grogu storyline, right? Like we did that for a long time with The Mandalorian, so they may need to pivot it in a way. Now they know Luke exists. Would they rather have Luke's essence?
That's right.
I mean, I don't know if that's that's a way they would want to go with it. We've all maybe thought eventually Palpatine figures it out. So who does he get either access to clone or Force essence from that is powerful enough to allow him to clone himself?
Yes. That's interesting. Yep.
Is Luke a part of it? I don't know.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Because obviously Moff Gideon, he's still around. So whatever his intentions were, like you said, I think still exist. So, I don't know. I think there's obviously potential. I mean, I don't think anybody out there would say they wouldn't want to see a show with a young Luke, but a whole separate side debate would be whether or not it's a CG'd Mark Hamill or is it a Sebastian Stan that steps in, and then it's like, well, it's not really Luke Skywalker.
That's a fair question or an idea to pose, though, because I think you're right. If they're gonna do a series, I'm almost on the impression, even though they've already done the DH thing, you got to have a real actor, and you got to put him in real environments and lighting, and it's just different. I mean, they did a good job in Mandalorian season 2, but there's a little bit of eye movements. The mouth is maybe the main thing. The way they talk in even with Tarkin and Leia, and they did a great job with all of them. It's not perfected technology yet.
No,
to sustain. I don't know what they do, 8 episodes. So if they're 30-minute episodes,
right.
I mean,
that's a lot of work. I mean, I think they do. I would assume it's the same team that's messing with the Marvel movies, because I feel like in the Marvel movies, those look pretty good. You can still tell, but with them, they're actually de-aging the actual person that they're de-aging, right? Mm-hmm. With Luke, they had somebody else playing. It wasn't Hamill that was standing in and de-aging him. I think that works better. But could Mark Hamill play? Because then you would have to probably digitally slim him down also, because you just have the same build either.
I think it's why they had to have the stunt guy, right?
Yeah,
they put him in the long hood, which is awesome. But Mark Hamill wasn't going to be able to do all those moves. I mean, he could do it, but it would look like an older Mark Hamill.
That's exactly
who's,
right.
Just different body type now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I do think the de-aging would work. It's just like if Harrison Ford played a young Han Solo, it's like he wouldn't move like a young Han Solo. He'd move like an older.
His punches would be a little more, like Blade Runner 2049-esque. Which hey, he gets around. He still does some of his own stunts, but it's a little different than Han running down the Star Destroyer corridor, just yelling and screaming.
Yeah, but that begs the question, because I know maybe they didn't think of it like this, but I feel like a lot of fans have come out and said that had Solo been a Disney Plus series, they would have, for some reason, they would have been more on board with another actor playing the iconic Han Solo. Versus, leave the Harrison Ford as the movie character. So it's safe to say, would people have been okay with showing a face that looked familiar to Mark Hamill in The Mandalorian, because it's a Disney Plus series? And then would that have been okay then for people to say, okay, well, that person could do the series then? You know what I'm saying? Because I love that idea personally. I love the idea that you can recast these people in the Disney Plus series, but let's leave the movie franchise to the actors that started those characters. That there's an argument there. I think there's a debate there, but that would be a good way to separate it, in a sense, in my mind.
Yeah, I think you're right. For whatever reason, there is on television or in a Disney Plus series, which, is television, there may be just a little bit different way that you accept some things, or, we can, and some people listening probably know ins and out behind the scenes production. Some of us can maybe tell difference of okay, this had a larger budget than this. And you just get past it really quickly, or they do a really good job with the budget they're given and you're blown away by it.
Correct.
But I wonder if the behind the scenes of this
Gallery series,
the Gallery series, is gonna talk any about, I kind of want to know, had they always intended to use Mark Hamill, to use his likeness, his voice, obviously his likeness, but to do any kind of de-aging, deepfake, whatever technology? Or did they cast this stunt or guy that kind of resembled him, and then they shot it all and they're like, you know what? It's just not quite Luke.
Yeah,
we've got to change the face or something. I really wonder what came first. And it's interesting. That moment, even though a lot of people, half the people chose to maybe talk about the de-aging technology, and half the people are like, wow, it's Luke Skywalker, it's Mark Hamill. If it wasn't, and it was just some guy, Joe Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what does Mark Hamill say? Jake Skywalker. If it was just Jake Skywalker, it may not have had the same pop. It may have just been
Well, a lot of people did complain about the way Mark Hamill looked, digitally. So, but I think I feel like more people would have complained if it wasn't a digital Mark Hamill. I think a lot of people would have been just like you said, why did they do that? Why did they cast a different person for Luke Skywalker? Because a lot of people said that with Han. A lot of people said no one's Han Solo but Harrison Ford. I don't know, but I feel like people that liked the movie got past it. I feel like, I don't know, this is just hard. It's just hard to it's hard to go down that road, because I think if the technology was there, I think there's no question you would do it. You would put a Mark Hamill face on somebody. And I want to say that I've seen some behind the scenes photos of that actor, and they filmed him with the dots. So which makes you think that the intent was always to replace his face.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're right. They could have done takes and then of both with and without the dots, and maybe they thought they'd think about it. But
yeah, I'm sure they had to shoot parts of that scene a lot for like lighting references.
Correct. Yeah.
Whatever CG they did anyway. But yeah. It's interesting. I've even heard, and I guess maybe we'll hear in the behind the scenes, that Mark Hamill was on set and delivered lines.
I heard that too. Yeah.
But I haven't seen any of this. So
no.
I'm really interested to know how they did all that.
Yeah. Can't wait for that gallery series. That comes out in August. I think August 25th or something like that. I think about a week and a half after the Bad Batch ends. So we'll see how they did all that and what their thought processes were. But I think it's safe to say that there's not going to. I'm pretty sure that there's not going to be a Grogu Luke series. I think that's going to be difficult to do, and I think Grogu will come back. I think, like you said, Grogu will come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Obviously they set up this whole emotional bond. It's super sad, even though it's the next best person for Grogu to be with, right? Other than the Mandalorian is Luke. And in a lot of ways, it's better than him being with Ahsoka because, Ahsoka has her own issues with the Jedi and where she was at that time, right? She still has some growing to get to where she is. Well, now I'm even sort of confusing myself with where she is in Mando Season 2 and where she is at the end of Rebels. I think we've established end of Rebels is after that moment, right?
That's the theory, yes.
The theory, yeah. So anyway, I think it made more sense for him to go with Luke, but it's so sad that you just want him to come back, right? Yeah. Or you want them to need to be with each other for some reason, or maybe then the Mandalorian gets to do something for Grogu. I hate to say, but maybe he has to sacrifice himself in some way, or I don't know. It'd be interesting. Yeah,
I love your thought about if anything, I think you could bring Luke and Grogu back into the Ahsoka series and be a part of what's happening with Thrawn. Because what I definitely want to see above all else, I think, of all this is I want Ahsoka to meet Anakin's son. That's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a massive moment.
Yeah. Well, and it's got me thinking, because you always, you mentioned, the conflict that could happen. What could necessitate bringing two Jedi up against a threat, right? I mean, because right now we've been thinking about Ahsoka, potentially Din, and then you've got all the cast of Mandalorian. You got Bo-Katan, you've got all these, people involved on the hero side. And aside from Gideon and Imperial remnants and maybe Thrawn, you kind of wonder if there's no dark side user, what could be a threat that could be big enough for more than just Ahsoka, right? Ahsoka could probably handle most of these things on her own.
Yep. Very true.
So I don't know what they're going to do.
Very good point. Yeah. I don't know. Thrawn, whatever Thrawn could be doing or whatever he's been doing, that could be a threat. That could be the threat. So, maybe this is how you bring in the what is it, the Hussein Vong? Maybe.
Well, yeah, Hussein Vong, or I've heard, and I think it's been dropped in Thrawn books, but I haven't read them. So maybe if you have the Grisk have been mentioned as a species outside of like unknown regions area, and if that's where you assume Thrawn and Ezra are. Maybe they repurpose so that the Grisk are an alien species that can resist the Force or something.
Yep.
To that effect, which obviously could be really interesting and brings in Grogu, Luke, Ahsoka. Now they're all on the same playing field.
That's interesting.
And kind of makes, the Mandalorian and Boba Fett maybe even more interesting because you've got these Jedi who can't use their powers. Well, these bounty hunters are great at, just fighting.
Very interesting. I'm liking where that's going for sure. I am liking where that's going for sure. But because you're right, because there has to be a strong enough threat to even hint at bringing these guys together. So, and of course, you'll have Ezra too. You have a third Jedi there in a sense if they find him. Which apparently that's a little bit of news we didn't talk about, but apparently there's a rumor out there that I don't want to butcher his name, but his name, the live action Aladdin character, he has been cast as Ezra, and Lars Mikkelsen has been cast as Thrawn live action. So there's been a news outlet out there that has confirmed that, apparently, not Lucasfilm, but apparently that's happened. So, yeah, lots of good stuff there. We've talked a long episode here, but great conversation, great things to hopefully look forward to. Hopefully they've had these conversations like we have, and they're thinking about it. So
yeah,
we will see.
I feel like I need to go read the Thrawn trilogy now to just get my head into where they could be going.
The old one or the new one?
The old one. Sorry, more specifically, because I don't know. I'm starting to be under the impression that they're doing Rogue Squadron. They're setting up live action Thrawn, putting it in the timeline right after Episode 6.
Yes,
I kind of feel like, and before all this, they were potentially doing, Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic type movie with the Game of Thrones producers who have since passed on it. I feel like Lucasfilm is going to let's adapt current storylines into where we want to put them.
Yep. I think that's a great idea. I think there's good stories there to shape after. So, all right. Feel like we could go on for hours, Cody, with these topics, man. Lots of good speculation. Hopefully, that's the thing is we've been speculating a long time. Hopefully we get some concrete, information and details out there to be excited about, but we can definitely keep speculating. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Come back next week. We'll dive into more Bad Batch. I'm sure there's going to be some more news coming out from possibly the Comic-Con at home that's happening right now. And as things get closer, Star Wars Visions is very close to coming out. Hopefully there's something with the Book of Boba Fett that should be out. I mean, we're only 5 months away from that coming out. 5 months away. So that's going to be here before we know it. So good stuff. Of course, go to InsideTheForce.com to get all of our information and whatnot, and follow us everywhere you can. Great talk, Cody. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. See you all around.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. See you next week. May the Force be with you.